Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 530 News on KAJ, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, I'm Don Fisher. The contested case over a proposed water bottling plant near Creston continued today. A decision to grant a water use permit to the Montana Artesian Water Company is at issue. MTN's Nicole Miller shows us what developments were made at the hearing today.
Water just may be the new gold as the battle over the Flathead Valley's water, some of the cleanest and purest in the nation, continues today with expert testimony. The Montana Constitution states the water belongs to the state and its people for their use, but the Montana Artesian Water Company plans to ship 140,000 bottles of it out of state each day. Groundwater hydrologist Attila Folnagi testified Wednesday. He oversaw and validated that water testing requirements were met in the company's quest to open the plant near Creston. Though law requires application forms be filled out completely, there were numerous items left out, like the depth of the well. But Folnagi says that information wasn't important and determined there would be no adverse effects to leaving it out.
That information is required to ensure the reliability and the accuracy of the aquifer tests that are conducted to show the legal availability of water in these cases. And so it's not an optional criteria to include the dimensions of the well, the depth of the perforated zones. Those are required information under the law.
You know, there's been a lot of talk about this Form 633 and the fact that it's not completed and that it's not in complete compliance with regulatory code, with the ARM. I think what you're hearing from the experts that use those forms, use that data, says it's inconsequential to the actual analysis. He didn't need the information that was lacking on those forms to complete the necessary analysis.
Expert testimony will continue Thursday with applicant of the permit and owner of the Montana Artesian Water Company, Lou Weaver, expected to take the stand. Reporting in Kalispell, Nicole Miller, MTN News.
And that hearing continues tomorrow and is open to the public. Well, more clouds and high temperatures topping out in the 50s or 60s as we work through the rest of the week. For more on that, we'll take it over to Chief Meteorologist Erin Yost for her first forecast. Erin?
Yeah, things staying a little cooler than average along with these unsettled conditions, which is great. Fire season quickly wrapping up across northwest Montana, across all of western Montana, as a matter of fact, as we still see the mountain snow and valley rain hanging around. A large trough of low pressure is in place, hence these cool and unsettled conditions. We've picked up just shy of 1/10 of an inch of rainfall today at the Kalispell Airport, and there is more where that came from, although we will see decreasing shower potential over the next couple of days, and by this upcoming weekend, it looks like another drier weather pattern will start to take shape. All those details coming up shortly.
Thank you, Erin. Republican senators are pushing forward with their latest plan to repeal and replace Obamacare. The proposed plan from Senators Bill Cassidy and Lindsey Graham would give states, instead of the federal government, more flexibility on how to provide health care for their residents. MTN's Kent Ludson spoke with Senator John Tester about his thoughts of this last-ditch effort to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
The truth is McConnell has already said, who is the leader of the Senate, there's going to be a vote next week. And I can tell you there is being a lot of pressure being applied to senators to try to get them to vote for this bill, even though it may be the worst of the four bills we've looked at now, far worse than the previous three.
Tester said this bill would kick people off of their health plan, raise rates, threaten coverage for people with a pre-existing condition, and strain the Montana Veteran Affairs. President of the Montana Hospital Association, Dick Brown, agrees with Tester, adding that this bill would jeopardize many lives that are covered today.
First of all, there is no requirement on the states, if the money comes in the block fund, there's no requirement for them to put it in coverage. So with a lot of state budgets like Montana's worrying about other areas, there may be money distributed in directions that would not support what we're trying to accomplish here with coverage.
Another major concern for Senator Tester is the caps and cuts of federal funding for Medicaid, a move he says threatens rural hospitals, nursing homes, and care for disabled children.
If you're a great big hospital and you have volume, you might be able to survive this. But if you're not, if you're like a Cut Bank or a Roundup or a Big Sandy or a Chester, and the list goes on and on and on, you're not going to have that volume. And if that charity care goes up, it's going to put you at risk of closure.
Senator Tester admitted Obamacare has its problems, but believes this new proposed health care bill is not the answer either. Reporting in Missoula, Kent Lutzen, MTN News.
And Tester added if the proposed bill is passed, it would change a 52-year relationship Medicaid has had with the states. And the town of Browning is in the process of being disbanded due to financial issues. According to the Blackfeet Tribal Business Council Chairman Harry Barnes, the tribe will receive what is left of the town's assets. They will also buy the city hall and the money that will be paid to the other plaintiffs in the lawsuit. The Blackfeet tribe has taken over the public service that the former town of Browning used to do. Barnes says that the town now has to heal as the process can come to an end.
I appreciate the tribal council's efforts in resolving this thing and putting an end to a drawn-out case that really was harmful, like I said, to the entire community, to where we can start healing, mending, and moving forward in a more positive way.
And Barnes says there is about 2 to 3 months left until the city of Browning is officially disbanded. The American Civil Liberties Union of Montana celebrating a minor victory today after the Montana Supreme Court orders revisions to a proposed bathroom bill. The Montana Locker Room Privacy Act is sponsored by the Montana Family Foundation, and the act would require government buildings or public schools to create so-called protected bathrooms designated for a single sex. The ACLU says the initiative discriminates against transgender people. The High Court ordered Tuesday 5 revisions. The first key change is to clearly define the term sex. The ruling says the initiative fails to identify whether sex means a person's anatomical sex or the sex the person identifies as. The initiative must also address the number of so-called protected facilities, the future costs, and further explain the component that allows people to file lawsuits if the measure is not followed. These revisions must all fit within the 135-word constraint for ballot measures. The death toll is rising today following Tuesday's violent 7.1 magnitude earthquake in south central Mexico. Rescuers are conducting desperate searches looking for survivors in the deadliest earthquake to hit the country since 1985. Chris Martinez has the latest from Mexico City.
Rescuers are frantically digging into the ruins of collapsed buildings, hoping to find survivors of Tuesday's violent earthquake. They made contact with a young girl trapped inside this demolished elementary school in Mexico City this morning, but the process to remove her is slow and dangerous because the rubble is not stable. Searchers halted their efforts and raised their hands several times, urging for quiet, hoping to hear voices from inside the wreckage. Earlier, they pulled out several young children, but at least 21 students and 4 teachers died. Officials say the earthquake reduced at least 44 office buildings, homes, and schools to piles of concrete in Mexico's capital. There's also massive damage in rural areas. In Jojutla, near the quake's epicenter, entire blocks were destroyed. This man said his wife and grandson barely escaped when this church came toppling down, but others weren't as fortunate. Families started holding wakes for the dead this morning. Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto toured the damage Tuesday night and asked people to remain calm. He said the biggest priority now is to find the missing and help the injured as rescuers race the clock. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Mexico City.
And the earthquake struck on the 32nd anniversary of that 1985 earthquake in Mexico City that killed thousands. Hours before yesterday's quake, people around conducted earthquake drills to mark the date. And after the break, we'll have the moving story of 2 firefighters who paid the ultimate price to keep us safe this summer. And later, palm trees were stripped and buildings damaged in San Juan as Hurricane Maria passed through. That's all coming up next on KAJ.